people to join so that we can share with them later. But you know, I think a lot of us also joined Oopar to make new friends, improve our social skills, get better at socializing. So I'm sure even when all of us, or a lot of times, meet at offline events or for some of the meetups, not all of us have it very natural to start a conversation, talk to somebody, or we sometimes get awkward. We sometimes get in situations which are just difficult to talk or difficult to say no to. So I thought it would be really great for us to have some expert, have somebody who can actually help us navigate better through such conversation. For those of you who are joining a navigating session for the very first time, we meet every last Sunday of the month to learn some life skill. Usually it can be anything, but we try and relate it to something that we all can benefit at Uber around socializing. So I think for this particular session, I'm very excited to have Shivli with us, right? Shivli, first of all, is not just a subject matter expert in this field. She's a counseling psychologist. She has a PhD, but she's also building her own startup. It's called Better Space, which revolves everything around mental health for different age groups, different problems, different things that revolve around that. So I thought we could not have somebody better than her to help us navigate this through this today. So welcome to Upar Shivli for the very first time. Very excited to have you with us. And I would
You.
I would let you introduce yourself, and we can take the conversation from there. So just to let you know, guys, Shivli has a few things prepared for us, but we'll keep it very interactive. Okay, we'll not keep it monologuous. We'll make sure that we all can participate and do stay till the end so that we also have a Q&A. So if you have any specific questions that you believe are not covered or that you want to talk about, we can take those up as well.
Great.
Okay, Shivli, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sagar, and the whole community for coming here on a Sunday and spending time talking about difficult conversations. Um, Let me just give you a little bit of background about me. So, as Sagar mentioned, I am a psychologist by profession. I've just completed my PhD, and I am also the co-founder of Better Space. And at Better Space, we want to basically make mental health easy and less taboo. And we want it to be obviously very customized according to person's need. Because I believe that it just becomes very scientific for no reason. And I don't like it honestly, because even when we were studying, we didn't do it. So we also liked it simple and easy. So that's what we are doing. And one of the things that I'm very proud of in Better Space is that we have made mental health firstly super easy and regional. So a lot of our content is in Hindi. We have a lot of content in regional languages. So that is something that we are working towards. Now that being said, I'm very happy to come here at Uber because I have been hearing about this community for the longest time, and I've always wanted to be a part of a community where at least mental health is valued, because most of the conversation is so tabooed, so it becomes sometimes difficult to have a enriching conversation in mental health. So very happy to be here. um, with that, I have a very small presentation because I thought that it will be a good visual aid as well as something for you to learn about. But then I wanted to be obviously more interactive than just that. So let me just share it with you. I hope you all can see this.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, we can see it now. Shivli.
Great. So, how to handle difficult conversations is the topic for today. And before we get into it, I would like to play a small game with you all, so that I can understand your perspective to things. Although Sagar did a good job at asking you some questions beforehand, so I have some brief idea on where this conversation will be going today. But for this, I would like you all to either scan the screen and become a participant of this Q&A, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code 56856906. You can just enter the code and you can be a part of this. So either which ways, I will give you around say 30 seconds. You can take your time and join us here. Once you join, I will get, I can see three people have joined. But I can't see who are these three people, so don't worry. It's not creepy that way.
So
But
if you guys are maybe done joining, you can just drop a done on the chat so that we know that you are in.
four.
It just loading for me. It's showing presentation in progress. So,
Hmm.
okay.
Sure.
Okay.
It shows for me like waiting for presenter.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what even I was referring to.
Okay, then maybe when I change the slide, it'll change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can just join and give a thumbs up.
Hmm.
And then we are done. Once then she'll start,
Ah.
we'll take it from there.
Okay. Great. Let me.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can follow
Yeah.
through it.
So, if difficult conversation were a sport, which one would they be? So, I would like to hear from you. Please vote your
Which one?
best, whatever suits best for you. If difficult conversation was a sport, just keep on voting in that, in your phone or in your laptop, whatever device you're using. Don't message here, because if you message here, you will not be able to. Yeah. Oh, great. I can see one, two boxing, and four chess. One is just running, sprinting, and two is dodgeball. Great. Let us move on then. My next question to you is, what's your secret weapon during a tough conversation? Now you have to again give your votes here. A big smile, a well thought out plan, a cup of coffee, humor to lighten the mood. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. I can see maximum people are using humor, and then there is a smile and a plan. That's great. Let's move on to the next question. What is one tip you'd give to someone for staying calm in tough times, in tough talks? I would like to hear some response from you. You can either write one, two words, or maybe a sentence, whatever you think is helpful for you. You can write in the chat, in not in the chat, but here, so that you can see the responses. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Relate to
Great.
other people or groups. Like I was just thinking as you were saying, Ramya, about how you
Yeah, if somebody has not been able to join, you can still join in using menti.com, and then you can use the code which is presented here. So you can add here. Okay, as you can see, there are so many wonderful responses, and it's still, yeah, mostly people are saying things like ignore, chill, stay calm, take a deep breath. Okay, okay, that's brilliant. So these are the things that we usually say to people, and I think people also say back to us. It can be helpful, it cannot be helpful, but it depends on situation to situation. Okay, let's move on to the next. Which animal best represents you when you handle a conflict? When there's a difficult conversation or a conflict, what is the animal that you become? Mm, nice.
I'm glad people have been honest enough to say chameleon.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. That is very nice honesty. Nice. Brilliant. So we can see there is a tie between a lion and a chameleon. That's brilliant. So and these look like extremes also. Great. So with that, this is the last slide for you to answer. Thank you so much for being so proactive and joining and giving your inputs. Let me then continue with giving you some basic idea of what makes a conversation difficult. You know, most of the times we keep on saying that, oh, it's a difficult conversation, oh, it's very uncomfortable. Three things that make it very difficult, a normal conversation versus a difficult conversation, is firstly our poor performance in our past. That could be one of the basic reasons that maybe in the past or in your childhood or in any situation before, you have probably faced a situation where you have probably said something and then it was not probably taken well by the person, the conversation, or even if it was taken well by the person but it didn't lead to a result. Many reasons why poor performance can be a very big reason for making a conversation difficult. This we see usually, especially in workplace, because most of the times when you are in a workplace, you have some suggestions to give to your team, and sometimes it can be taken, sometimes it cannot be taken. Now what that leads to is the person feeling like, no matter what I do or no matter what feedback I give or something, it will not be taken because the work works like that. So this is a very common um, uh, reason why the conversation is difficult. Anybody here who has had a similar experience? I would like to know if you can just say yes or no in the chat. Great. So I can understand that you are with me till here. Yeah. So poor performance definitely makes the conversation very difficult because you're not very sure on if it is worth taking that risk again, talking again, and making the effort again. Then the next one is obviously very obvious thing, which is the negative feedback. Whatever you said is not taken the way it was said. Either there has been some kind of change in the tone, change in the wordings, or there has been a change in the attitude from the person, or there has been a negative, your opinion has been turned into you being that person and not the situation being blamed. So a lot of times, one of the things that obviously all psychologists keep on telling to people is, you can always blame the situation, not the person, because the person is just reacting to that situation. But that doesn't happen most of the times. What usually happens is when we give when there is a conversation, for example, one of the most basic conversation that I think recently when we were working with a company, that happened was, um, there was this person who is in HR who manages the team, right? And there was this one person in the team who was dressed a little inappropriately, and they just took that person aside, made them sit, tell told them about it, that this is not according to the dress code that we have in the company, so can you work towards that? And the person did not take it nicely, and it got very 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 difficult and awkward at that time. because the feedback was actually given with an intention of growth, but it might have not been received that way. And I'm sure this is like obviously one side of the story and all of those things, but what I'm talking towards is it could be anything. There needs to be and if it is not taken that way, it turns out to be something negative, and then the person feels, oh, what did I do, why did I do this? So that happens. So I'm sure you must have also gone through this. The next is obviously conflict resolution is something that becomes a problem. Most of the times, what makes a conversation difficult is the person's response to something that they see as conflict. For this, I would like to give you a basic demonstration. I have a brain here because why not? So this is our brain, and this is how our brain looks from the inside. Now I will show you this part of the brain. This is called the amygdala, which is the midbrain that that everybody has. Now over here we have all the emotions that we feel, all the memories that we feel. They are all very close together. So that's why a lot of memories makes us emotional, and all the emotions are what we remember, because the regions of the brain are next to each other, they are neighbors. So that's why we don't particularly, if I ask you, tell me about your 12th grade, how it was, you would not be able to tell me what did you study. You would be able to tell me what kind of memories you had, how you felt. So that is that's the beauty of the brain. Now, in conflict situations, when somebody is having a difficult conversation, or when we are put in a situation which we think is difficult for us, what happens is there is a alarm system that amygdala kind of brings it into us, and it just starts reminding us, this is awkward, just move, or react or respond, so at that time we are not particularly thinking logically. Logic is this part of the brain, whereas emotion is this part of the brain, if I can put it that way. So logic goes out of the window, and then we start thinking very emotionally. So if you would actually think about all the difficult conversations you have had in your life, or even top three, you would think that they are always emotional in nature. They are not super logical. And they end up to being so how you react to that conflict resolution or conflict situation is very much attached to how you are as a emotional being. So what ends up happening is you are talking with a lot of emotions, and you're taking things too personally. The conflict is not getting resolved, and it starts escalating. The awkward or the difficult conversation starts becoming more and more than what it began as. As simple thing as, change your dress could be blown into proportion of, oh, I don't think I look good as a human being, or oh, I don't think I have a good fashion sense, or I have good sense of wearing clothes, maybe because my body is ugly, maybe because I am ugly. All of these small thing of this um, uh, small thing can be actually blown into larger proportions. So these are the top three reasons why somebody can actually feel any conversation is difficult. And these are obviously in what do we say? I'm talking about the personal reasons, internal reasons. Externally, so it could be because the person who we are talking to, we have not had a good experience with them. So that is also there. And one of the reasons why I'm talking about internal thing and not external, because internal we can control, and external we cannot. So I hope this makes sense for you. I will then move on to what are the common challenges when we are trying to have, because now we are talking about what makes it difficult. Now let's move on to the common challenges that somebody can face. One is obviously emotional triggers. Like I was giving you the example of the loop, a negative loop that is formed with people when some comment is made and then it becomes into a larger piece, which can be irrational. It cannot be super rational. We cannot guarantee that. So, when somebody is asking you to change the clothes, for example, it could just be that, you know, it doesn't need to be that you are not a good dresser or whatever. But then it ends up being that if there is a past of emotional trigger, if it is something which is sensitive for us. Most of the times people are sensitive about the way they look, they are sensitive about their own intelligence or their own intellect. They are also sensitive about their own productivity and how much they are contributing as a productive human being. And obviously there are also the societal standards of where they live, what salary they make, and all those things, external pressures. So emotional triggers then become a very big challenge, because this is if you're thinking that awkward conversation is difficult, or like difficult conversations are difficult, then it just adds to that difficulty by being more emotionally triggering. And it might remind you of something in the past, it might remind you of some situation that you didn't go through, and it becomes a very negative spiral then. The other thing is obviously the fear of confrontation, which is when we are very fearful of the, not of the confrontation per se, but of the output of that confrontation. Most of the times when we are working with clients, clients don't have a problem with talking. They are like, I can talk, but I cannot guarantee what the other person will react to it, which is why I'm fearful. What if they react badly to it and then I cannot handle that? That is the more difficult part as compared to the confrontation itself. Sometimes, which is why one of the questions that I asked was also about how do you think is, what do we say, how do you think people will, I forgot, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I was saying that what is the type of conflict resolution, what kind of animal do you become? So that is where this becomes a very important thing, that if if given a confrontation, if you are becoming a lion, if you are becoming very aggressive, then it might not be super helpful because it's very extreme. And the other extreme is if we are just saying yes to everything. That is also not very good thing, because most of the times what happens is our human brains are hardwired to just agree with the crowd. If I just tell you all that, oh, when you are going through difficult conversations, it's just amazing to you know cry and shout and have a fight. And if and you might be thinking maybe that's not the best idea. And if there are some 5 6 people to my idea, then there is a possibility that you might want to join that. Maybe it's a good idea. So the herd mentality is what we usually say, that we are hardwired to be a community. And then fear of confrontation becomes very very real. And obviously miscommunication, when the tonality, kiss tone mein, what kind of tone you're using, what is the purpose of saying it, what is the reason behind somebody saying that. Instead of understanding all of that, we just take the things for the way it is and just start panicking from there. Um, I can see some of the comments that you all are making. Let me just go to it. Okay, logic going out of the door is, yeah, that is human brain. Great. I'm scared of confronting someone because, but I feel it's important to do because it makes everything very clear. That is very true. And I think I would love to know more about this particular thing that you have talked about so that we can also see what you could do to confront. Maybe you might need some tools and that can help. So these are the three common challenges that anybody faces, regardless of them being, regardless of their gender, regardless of their age, regardless of their careers. Everybody faces this because it's a human tendency. So you're not alone in this. Before I talk about key skills, I would actually like to pause here a bit and listen to all of you about if you can give me some what do you say some situations so that I can then we can talk about this skills for managing conversation and everything. I would love if anybody can volunteer and give me a couple of situations where they thought it was very difficult and what they did, and then maybe we can discuss on how it could have also been done for a different output. Anybody wants to share?
Yeah, I can share.
No.
Yeah. So there was this situation. So like I have a brother and I'm not like very, very close to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to stop talking to him because he, as a person, he gives a lot of like negative energy, and I don't like that about him. So I just wanted to stop talking to him, and I didn't know how to do it. And I always would pick his call, and then I would just talk for the sake of talking. But then one day I was like, I decided I will tell him that, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Just go away. And then I did that. But after I did that, I was feeling bad for doing that. So I don't know how to handle that situation. But yeah, maybe I was rude at that point of time, or maybe I don't really know. But yeah, how could I have handled that
Yeah.
in a better way? I don't know.
Oh, that's thank you, Ritika, for sharing this. That is brilliant. It's a very nice example. Um, just one question is: are you still talking to your brother, or
Sorry,
is it not happening now?
sorry, what?
Are
Come
you
up
still
again?
talking to your brother, or is it not happening now?
No, no, no. I'm not. I'm not in touch with him.
Okay. And this is somebody who you were close to before or not?
No, I was never close to him
Okay.
since childhood. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, so as you all heard, there is a difficult conversation, an awkward conversation that was supposed to make like it was supposed to be a little easy, but then it wasn't, and now there is a lot of confusion as to what could have done better. And this is where I believe we can definitely talk a little bit about one of the most important skill that I'm going to start with is non-violent communication, NVC. So NVC is called non-violent communication. It basically talks about how you can put your thoughts across in a helpful manner where it doesn't feel like you're attacking yourself or the person in front of you, you know. So one of the things that could have easily done, not easily, actually I would remove that word, it could have been done with a lot of effort. It's not easy. Which is non-violent communication. Now, how does that work? So one of the things that you all can do, if you take Kritika's example or your own personal example, just think about any difficult conversation that you might have made. The first thing is the observation. When we are observing that maybe this particular relationship in my life is not adding as much positivity as I want it to be, right? So
Yes.
this is the first basic observation that I believe everybody has made in their own lives, right? Because most of the times when these things happen, it becomes like like Ritika was giving the example of, that you feel like not wanting to address it, you want to kind of get away from it and not deal with it, which is a
Yes.
very common human feeling, very, very common human feeling. So the first obviously is the observation of the whole thing. Ki maybe this is not working out for me. This could be a relationship, this could be some work, this could be a person, this could be anything. It could be a project that you have taken up, anything for that matter. So first comes the observation. Then comes the next step, which is your feelings about it. In nonviolent communication, you have to firstly observe what is happening, and then you can go on to understanding what is your feeling about it. So in this particular scenario, you can feel maybe I'm not feeling very much heard, or I'm not feeling valued in this relationship. I'm not feeling like this is a relationship worth having, and many, many other feelings that you might be feeling.
Yes.
And then we want to look at what are the needs. The next would be the needs. In this relationship, if it was to work out between the both of us, then what are the things that needs to be changed? What are the needs that I have from that person or that project or that situation, which if I get, it will make things better? you know so that is next thing that we need to work towards. And then if we have thought all these things through, we have actually thought and worked on it, all these three things, and then we make a request, it would be much more not emotional, it might be much more logical, and it will be coming from a place of wanting to solve the problem and not run away from it. So, although again, running away is one of the most tempting things that happens to any human being, and it is also something which I believe a lot of people don't even realize that they are doing. So, it's a great thing that some people are able to realize. Otherwise, maximum time in therapy, we have to actually tell, or maybe that is a very important realization somebody has, is that unconsciously or consciously we are doing these things. So in this process, when we make the request, what could have been done better is a conversation with two people, where one person could have said, when you do so and so and so and so, with some examples, these are the feelings that I get. I feel that maybe you're not being very positive, or you're not being supportive, you're not being helpful towards me. These are the conversation. This is the line that you could use in any conversation which is difficult. And then we can move on to sometimes it feels like I want to not be in the relationship with you, or not continue this relationship, because it becomes very hard for me to continue feeling empathy or love for you while I receive so much of negativity, you know and then we work towards, if this were to be a long lasting relationship, then one of the things that we need to work towards is changing so and so and so and so. So this is more of a adult conversation. It is a little adult conversation in the sense it requires a level of maturity from both ends, not just one end. Because you can be mature, you can do all the work that you want, but if the person who we are talking to is not willing to accept or understand, then it becomes a no help conversation. But if the level of maturity is good enough, then it becomes easier. Now when I say this whole conversation on how could have it been done better, I also need to tell you that this takes time. It takes effort, time. It takes sometimes constant conversations of this sort. It won't happen in one day that you're sitting and you're chatting and the person goes like, oh yeah, I should be doing this, and then the next day the person changes. Never happens in real life, but it definitely does take persistent efforts. And if it is still a conversation that somebody is feeling that they are not very happy with that conversation, there is still hope for you to change that, because there is nothing called last word or something. You can always change that, but then the only hope is ki if you are changing now, then you think about all these things before you change. So then you come with a place of logic and emotion, not just emotion. So it becomes easy. I hope this gave you a very basic understanding of how non-violent communication works, where you are also not feeling triggered, the other person is not feeling triggered, and it becomes a win-win for both. I would love to, I hope that I gave some answer to you, Ritika.
Yes, yes,
And
definitely.
I would love to hear two more um, situations.
So, hey Shivli, I'm Manikanta.
Hello.
Hi. So basically, whenever I find a friend or I feel like communicating with a person, I accidentally spill some secrets, like, share some secrets and all, share common moments and all. And sometimes it goes to the wrong person and they start trolling me, or actually they start actually doing jokes out of the line and all. So I actually find it very difficult to actually confront that, to actually say no to that, because I feel if I say no, that person get hurt, and actually the whatever the relationship we are having stops at that particular point of time, and maybe I won't find another person and all. And also that's in those kind of situations, I actually tend to switch between either the lion mode, I become so aggressive, or I become the chameleon mode where I say yes to everything. So how to actually handle it? Because the only thing I handle is that force a smile and look away. But how to actually handle that situation?
That is so important, and I believe everybody must have gone through this at one point in their lives, where we have overshared, and then because like this actually happened with somebody I know 2 days 3 days back. So they were also talking about this, that in the spirit of friendship we were oversharing, and the other person was very strategic. They heard everything from you and then they use it against you, and this is it sucks. Let's just start with, it's not a good feeling to overshare, and then you get very guilty later on that, oh, why did I do this? And then it becomes very uncomfortable, because then that guilt leads you to think of every wrong thing that you've done in your life from the day you're born till now, and it's not a very pleasant feeling. Let's just start with that. One of the things, obviously, the nonviolent communication framework can really help for you, where you actually start by observing what you are feeling when you are with certain people. A lot of times, what happens is I believe it's a generation thing. I genuinely believe that it's a generation thing because we are so overstimulated as a generation with so many notifications, so many, like so many distractions, so many things to do. It becomes difficult to actually sit still and listen to the instinct that our body is giving, because our body is again hardwired to protect us, to conform things and stuff like that. So one of the things that does happen is when we are in a situation and we are oversharing, we our body does give us signals that this is not okay, but we are not being able to maybe hear it. So that is one thing. The other thing that we can definitely work towards is, I think you bring a very good point, which is the setting boundaries part of things. So when I'm talking about setting boundaries, maybe one of the things that anybody who's facing this particular situation can do is, maybe it will be very helpful for you. This is a activity that I make everybody do. You make like circles, right? It will be very fun for you if you actually do it in a quiet place for yourself. You make tiny tiny concentric circles, right? Circle inside a circle and inside a circle. So you can actually sit, and the most innermost circle is your core. These are things that only you know, or maybe only, yeah, actually it's only you know this about yourself. It could be that, like a very very personal thing that you cannot share with anybody. Then the circle on top of that would be maybe one of the people who are very close to you, maybe your spouses, or your maybe your partners, your loved ones, best friends. These are the people who would know this. So you can identify aspects of you that you are willing to share to those people. Then the third will be, for general everybody, like general friends, things which are told to everybody. Like for example, everybody who knows me would know that I am a co-founder of Better Space, and I'm doing this as a psychologist, and like general information plus something personal. So everybody who knows me would know that I'm probably married, or that or that I like this one color, or I like this one food, or something. So something which is general plus a little more specific. So this is, everybody would know. Then the last circle would be everybody who's in your Instagram family, or in your LinkedIn, or your digital presence, things that people know from afar, like that you also don't know that these people know this about you. So a lot of people would come up to me and say, hey, I read this about you on this particular newspaper or this particular thing, and I didn't know that they read it. So it's that information, it's that public. So what will help you, this going back to the activity, this activity, if you are actually doing it with 4 circles, I will repeat again, the innermost circle is your core, which only you know. Then only your close people know. Then only your general people who you hang out with on a regular basis know. And then the public knows. So once we decide what goes in which area of the circle, it brings a lot of clarity for us when we are having conversations. Because one of the times people overshare is when we are not very clear on where the lines are blurred. It becomes difficult for us that it becomes very difficult when we are trying to have a boundary setting thing, and we don't know where our boundaries lie. So, and usually a good boundary, a very good boundary, should be something which is semi-permeable. If you remember class 6th, 7th, and 8th, when we were studying the cell, the human cell, and it talks about the human cell wall is made of the semi-permeable membrane. That is where we learned this one word. The whole idea of semi-permeable membrane is basically a wall that basically selects what is good, it lets in, and what is bad, it just stays out. That is our human body cell, which is again hardwired into us, right? So we can actually use that for our boundaries as well, wherein if going back to the answer to answer you, um, if you are letting somebody in that place, and if you're letting somebody actually listen to certain things, you can also test, maybe in your own ways, how okay or how comfortable they make you feel. If they have, you can have some criteria for before giving your all. So that will be very helpful for you also in future, to help you actually make a long term connection, because we cannot take back the words once we have said it, but we can easily plan, we can easily manage what needs to be said. So obviously we cannot go back and change the past, but we can obviously work towards the future, and this could be very helpful when we are trying to set boundaries. We should know where our boundaries lie, and then we can also put a mini criteria, whatever you think is helpful for you, and then set the boundaries. So I think that can be very helpful for you or anybody who wants to, not overshare and then not face the sad consequences that come with it. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, Shivli.
Thank you. So the last, I would love to hear from anybody. Last, any example or anything?
How to deal with emotionally unavailable person, like how to communicate when somebody is very emotionally unavailable. I don't know if fits here with this topic.
This is more of a Q&A kind of a thing. Do you have any real life example that you can maybe give so that everybody can also understand? If you're comfortable sharing.
For example, if I talk to my father, he is usually like emotionally unavailable. He doesn't show much of emotions and doesn't invest in emotions when talking and all, and doesn't show that kind of empathy or something when talking. And if I'm trying to explain him something, I don't get that empathy from him in return and explain things.
It's a very good question. I think I believe everybody would have seen this in their own homes as well, because I believe it's again a generation thing, that maybe that generation of our parents who are now in their 60s and 70s has like somewhere between 50s to 70s. I believe they have not been given the language to speak, because if even if you go back to what was the conversation they had with their parents and their parents had with them, it's very less. It was mostly about, when if you look back to it, it is a very transactional conversation between that generation of parents. So yeah. Okay, one thing that you could do is, firstly, I think, which brings me to the third point of how to manage conversation, would be a little bit of perspective taking and a little bit of empathy from your side to begin this, right? So perspective taking is important, which is why I said ki maybe it's a generation thing, that the entire generation in general does not know how to speak emotions, does not know how to actually express what they are feeling. If you think about it, one of the basic example is, most of the times when I ask, even right now, if I ask you, how are you all feeling, maximum people will say, I'm feeling good. And good is not an emotion at all. Good, how do you feel good? You feel happy, you feel bored, or you feel excited, or you feel sad, or it's not a feeling, it's not an emotion. Good is just an adjective. But or I'm feeling fine, which is also an adjective. It's not a emotion. So one of the things that can help you in communicating with somebody with emotional unavailability, for people who do not know this terminology, it is usually a term used for somebody who is not very expressive, who's not very reciprocative of the expressions, and who just doesn't know how to receive or give emotions very well you know so one of the things that we can do is, for these people, firstly we need to know if we want to keep them in our lives or not. The priority, how high we want them to be in our lives. If this person, like a parent or a closed person or a loved one, if that is the case, then we have to make the effort, and we might have to make more effort than the other person because they are unavailable you know so we might have to do a 80% and then they do the 20%, instead of doing a 50-50. Because if we are expecting 50-50, then we will be not getting that expectation met, right? So we have to do an 80-20, and we have to be okay with the 80-20 effort. So that kind of empathy, that kind of perspective needs to be there. And the next thing is definitely continuously trying to have, again, nonviolent communications around that person, around certain topics, maybe helping them with things that matter, helping them with being able to communicate, ask them questions. Because what 80% looks like, if you are talking to a person who's not very emotionally expressive, 80% looks like you constantly checking, asking, confirming, reassuring. These are the things that we have to do, because if they are actually unable to do it, then we cannot hold them accountable for not developing that skill. What we can do is we can try to show them and hope that they learn from us, you know. And obviously, while that is there, we have to also set a boundary that we will not be fully invested. It's not our project. It's not our job to teach our parents. We can teach only till, again, 80% or 70% or how much ever we can do, and after that it's on them. So which brings me to the next point of, we have to pick battles, we have to pick conversations. We cannot be there doing everything for them, because that will drain you out, and if you are drained out, then you won't be able to do anything. So you pick your battles, you pick your things, you decide which ones are more helpful for you and which ones are more compatible for you, so accordingly you can work towards it. So I hope again that answered your situation.
Yeah, and what I'll also be doing after the call, I'll of course be sharing details of Shivli as well. I think few of these things that you mentioned, I'm sure it's very difficult to answer just on one call, and these are deeper topics that might need a little bit more depth. So if you want to get in touch with Shivli and what she does, I'll share all the details with you guys as well.
Yeah. Great. So this is something that I wanted to leave you with, and honestly, this is also the end of my thing. So what I will also do now is two things. One is I would like to tell you a little bit about what I have to offer to you all, and the next would be obviously Q&As. If you have any, please feel free to share, because like I told you, it's not going to be a technical conversation at all. So first thing that what I want to offer you as Better Space, as the co-founder of Better Space, is we have this thing called discovery calls. Discovery calls are basically for you to get a teaser of therapy, if I can say. So we will be sending you a form. It's a Google form. It takes you 2 minutes to fill, where you can fill in your contact details, and these contact details will be with us. And once you give us the consent, we will be, or my team, any psychologist from my team will be contacting you to get your available time and date and whatnot. And once that is done, we will be working towards um, finding you a so finding you that time, and in that time we will be giving you a call and exploring with you what are the concerns that you want to address in therapy. Because one of the things that I have seen with people is that they want to go for therapy, but they don't know if this is a conversation that can be had in therapy. If I book a session with somebody, will I be able to explore this with them or not? So there's a lot of vagueness around it. So we wanted to actually take that step forward and actually work with you to understand what your needs are, and then maybe help you with the matchmaking, which is the psychologist who will be talking to you. Maybe they can take up the session and they can talk to you about it, or they could also refer you to somebody who is more experienced in that particular concern. So both things are available, and then we can move on to booking a session for you on behalf of you, or something like that, and then moving on to that. I think this we have seen as a practice. We have been doing it for the past 3-4 years, and it has worked out tremendously for us, because the therapy drop rates are also less then. Because once the person has spoken to somebody and there is some trust and rapport built, then we don't see a lot of people wanting to back out from therapy, because then they know what exactly they are going for and why they are doing that. So this is something that we can offer to you, and we will be sending you a um, form regarding it. And in the coming weeks, you will also be getting an app from us, an app link, which will be a superb app for you for tracking your emotions, your journaling, your videos, some of the videos which are helpful for you, self-help kind of videos, and also therapy sessions all in one app. So you can use it, give us your feedback. This is especially for the Oopar community that we are opening this app to. So you will be the first to get the hands on it and give us the feedback. And that feedback will also obviously help us, because we are building this as we speak. So it will really help both of us. So that is the next thing that you will be getting from us. If you have any questions related to it, obviously Sagar will connect me with you all, so you can always reach out to me. And that was about it. I would love to hear any questions that you have. And over to Sagar. I'm done from here.
Absolutely. I mean, I would personally definitely advocate um, taking that discovery call, right? So that is something that Shivli has been kind to have at no cost. Because, even I have been thinking of taking some sessions for a very long time, but like, I do not have a specific reason why, right? I sometimes just feel like I should be talking, I want to be talking to somebody. but I do not like have a pinpointed problem to say that, okay, this is what I want to talk about. So I feel like that can really help out before you actually go ahead and take that step. But in terms of, conflict resolution and awkward conversations, I hope this session gave us a few ideas. I think my learning always from all navigating sessions is, changes are not quick, right? Things don't change in one day. Magic doesn't happen in one day. I think, like anything else, it's about kind of practicing it out and getting into a flow of doing something. But Shivli, I definitely have one question from my side, and I'm sure, as a founder, you might also be feeling this sometimes because you are in a position of receiving and giving feedback very, very continuously, right? I mean, from your customers to your employees and so on and so forth. And especially when you have to pass on a difficult feedback, it's never easy, but often important, right? Because you have a small team, a young team, and you want to be taking out their best. And you do not sometimes understand when the logic part of it ends and the emotion part of it kind of comes into the picture. So I would just love to know if you're trying to kind of pass on a difficult feedback, if there's some tip, something that I can keep in mind to make that conversation more non-violent, or keep it more easy for the other
Yeah.
person to be more receptive of it as well.
True. I think this is something I believe everybody goes through, and especially sometimes founders. And sometimes for me, it is more difficult because people expect me to be a psychologist as well as founder and not a human being. Kyuki, if I am getting angry, then they're like, how can a psychologist be angry? Because you're supposed to be the calm person. And I'm like, but I'm a human being first. So, this definitely happens a lot for me. And when it comes to difficult conversations like such, one of the things that I definitely do is state my intent first, which will be very helpful for anybody who is going through any difficult conversation that they want to do, especially when you have to say no to somebody, or especially when you have to give somebody some bad news. State the intent. Key, for example, I'll give you an example. One of my employees was having a very like, I was feeling that they were not putting enough effort towards things, and they were not doing things the way they used to do before. I've seen that they are potential, and their potential, and I've seen that they are very hardworking, but it just felt like in that month they were not doing a good job. They were doing mediocre. So that is now a observation. Now I can either yell at them, which I tried actually, did not work out, or you can just actually sit them down and have a adult conversation, which again I tried and that worked out. So sometimes you have to also figure out as things happen. So in that particular thing, one of the things that I did in the beginning of the call is actually tell them about, hey, I'm coming from a place of care. I'm coming from a place of wanting you to do better. It is not a critical conversation. It is not a conversation that is supposed to make you feel awkward or bad or sad. If it does, then I'm not like that's not my intention. You know, if it does, obviously it does, but that's not my intention. We can begin the conversation, or maybe you can put it in one of the few starting conversation things as a thing, and then you can actually have a conversation, on that day you did this, on this day you did this, or something like, with data and facts and stuff. When you did this, I felt like, you were not doing a good enough job because previously you have done like this, and all of those things, and then you can have a conversation around it, and actually listen to what they are saying. Maybe they are coming from a place of maybe they needed some help, or how can I help you in that situation? Do you think that if I would have helped you, things would have been different? These are the things that you can work towards, um, which is, and I believe the next thing that I do, which I 100% abide by, is making all conversations a little normal. even if it is panicking, you panic in normalcy. It takes a lot of practice, lots of practice. But even when you're panicking, it's okay to panic, it is a very common thing. I believe that people are not worried about panic. People are worried about the consequences of panic, which has not even happened yet. So it's like they're worrying about being worried, uh, which is difficult. So if you are going through something like that, you can easily work towards this. So these are two things that I make sure that I try to do. Now when I say this, I'm also a human being, which everybody of you are. There are going to be slip ups, there are going to be times where you will get angry, or there will be more heated conversation than non-violent conversation. I do not want to come across as somebody who's like saintly and doesn't do any mistakes, not at all. If you ask my team, they will probably say that I am somebody who's like always uh, worried about doing things, and all of those. So I think the last thing is to actually accept that you're human, and if out of 10 conversations maximum of them are you are satisfied by them, then that is the best you can do. You cannot have best conversations at all times. It will never happen. So that's also the reality.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. But I think that it's a good idea if often people also kind of, as long as they know that the intent is not to hurt or not to convey that incorrectly, I think there are a lot of things is something that people can understand. So if I'm not doing that, I don't know if I'm doing that, but I'll definitely try to consciously do that going ahead
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
make it a point. I keep on saying my intention is not to do this. मुझे मजा नहीं आ रहा है. I'm not very happy about giving this feedback to you. Like you can
Yeah.
easily say that, and it becomes so easy then, because the other person is also seeing that I am also struggling to
Yeah.
to speak
Makes sense.
about this.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Makes sense.
Any more
So
questions? Last questions before we wrap up.
I have a question. Can you give 3 tips or some easy tips when we do self communication to help understand self communication, empathetic self communication?
I think what would really help you is to explore. You should Google this thing called self compassion, because when you have asked this question, that it in itself, like, so my PhD is on self compassion and self communication. So now you understand how big, how big that topic can be. And because there is less time, I cannot fully give you the whole answer. But one thing is, definitely Google this thing called self compassion. That will give you enough online material that will help you at least get an introductory idea of it. And if you have any doubts, you can always reach out to me. But in short, if I were to give you understanding of self communication, it starts with first awareness about what you think you are. So for that, you need to be fully honest. Some of the times we are not super honest to ourselves, and we are trying to just lie to ourselves, which is not very helpful in long term, because it's you against you. So first you need to be very honest to yourself on what you think you are. It could be some of the aspects that you really like about yourself, and some of the aspects that you can't tolerate about yourself. For me, sometimes I also do not like that I get very worried sometimes, you know and I get so caught up in that worry that I forget to see other things. That is something I do not like about myself. So that awareness can be very helpful, because what happens is, if you're not very aware of what are our goods and the bads, we tend to take one thing. When, like, suppose I'm worried about something, and my self communication would be very negative, then I will be very negative about, hey, you're not doing this, means this is not happening, means you are not a good leader, or you're not doing good enough, or whatnot. It will just spiral into something which is very negative. And in that spiral, if you are aware, you can easily stop it when it is becoming very hard on you. It can also start attacking your good things. And if you're aware about the good things, then it becomes easier. So awareness about this is what you need, and I think therapy can really help you with that. This is something that can be very, like, it'll be golden in therapy. So one of the things that I would definitely give you as a suggestion is, if this is a larger conversation that you want to have for your self improvement, then you should definitely consider therapy as a tool to explore more about yourself here. Because for me also, as a person, because obviously when you become a psychologist, you have to take certain sessions as a mandatory thing that you do, right? So one of the things that I also worked in my life was this self discovery and awareness, which I'm very glad that my therapists were able to help me with. So this could really help you, and the self compassion videos can help you to get an understanding of what that concept is all about. So yeah.
Thank you so
That
much.
was very helpful.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Shivli, for spending time with us and walking us through this. I think I just hope this session can be a step towards us kind of being able to deal with these conversations slightly better, or at least just kind of start to discover how we can deal with these conversations better. I have a lot of takeaways. I'm definitely doing that concentric circles
Yeah.
exercise for myself. And I think at the end, also, what you mentioned, that a lot of times when we're talking to ourselves, we're not completely honest with ourselves itself, right? It's not easy to completely be honest with that as well. So definitely a lot of good takeaways. I really, really appreciate you taking out time, and I'll share all the details with the people. So do expect them to reach out to you.
Yes.
And